Alrighty, we finally have patch notes, so we can start looking at our trees and whatnot, decide what we're going to do for a starter build. I need to turn down the air because it's starting to get hot in here. Oh. Okay. See, start fresh. Find a remnant, which allows you to craft an item of your choosing. Depending on the shape used, encountered tough enemies, only to defeat to claim your item. The more you use, the more you fight. The higher the numbers, the rarer the item. Verisium metal. Unlock new crafting features. Rune forging. You unlocked it in Act 1. Allows you to add runic ward to your armors by spending Verisium. Anything lower than level 55 gains it with no downside, so there's no reason not to use it in the campaign. Make your campaign a lot easier. I don't know if you'll make that trade in endgame, but you can look at it. This defense kicks in once you reach 1 life, allowing you to continue to survive while your runic ward takes damage. Regenerates independently of your life. Alloy currency. These items add various new crafted modifiers to items. Okay, so it's another essence basically. Can upgrade the base type of unique armors that drop at levels lower than 55. Base defenses allowing low-level unique armors to become more competitive in the endgame. I think that's already known, but I can't remember everything from the reveal, so it's fine. Cost of reducing their defenses. Oh god. Unique Verisium rune forging has additional properties when used on the Kalgurin uniques. Okay. Assuming that's just any new unique they added this patch. Wow, this is really unfortunate. As soon as the patch notes drop, I gotta use the bathroom. Holy cow. That's depressing. Okay. Getting back to it. See, where are we at? Ancient runes can be unlocked. After completing the Act 4 quest, bonus specific to each weapon type. Mythical early game runes that can be crafted to provide significant boosts to level 15 plus characters, so your alt leveling is going to be faster for this season. Possibly forever when they, if they make this core. Transform the resistance on your items from one element to another. Interesting. Added 15 metacrafting runes that can be crafted. 60 plus runes can be created by destroying a unique to make a rune that gains some of its properties. I just want to know what those runes specifically will be made. Like 60 plus, so it's like 63. All right. Like if it was more than 70, they would have added 70 plus. So it's more than 60, less than 70, right? Let's see. Destroying a unique to make that rune gain some of its properties. We don't know what exactly that'll do. Hopefully it'll be cool. Hopefully not. Or maybe it won't. We don't know. Runic wards can be crafted from remnants, adding modifying properties to runic ward. Added 21 Calgurin skills that can be crafted from revenants. Calgurin supports that can be crafted from revenants. Have been changed in the remnants of runes of Aldur League. Not on an expedition with Pharaoh to explore the ocean as you investigate the tombs of the fallen. Remarkable rewards. We kind of already know that. Okay. New hideout. The logout mechanic has been changed into logbook, not logout. I was listening to people talk about logout earlier. Using logbooks now unveils a section of the ocean with a variety of islands to explore. Neat. We knew that. Underground areas have been added. Many new islands have been added. Faction leaders available to fight. Give you a key that you can use to access the pinnacle boss for Runes of Aldor. This was the old pinnacle boss, right? So now there's a new one. Let's see. Where was I going? Just in case anybody wants to join me. Got challenges to get cosmetic set, which I'm definitely going to try and grind out. Pieces of the runes of Elder Totem decoration to display in your hideout. That's known. Hardcore variants are parented in their standard Runes of Aldor equivalent, meaning you die in hardcore. Runes of Aldor, you can continue in the standard. Yeah, we knew that. Alice now has fixed points of interest. We knew that. We knew about the quests. We knew about this. I don't know if we knew about that. Endgame overhaul. Think that was discussed. That I thought it was just going to be to the north. Didn't realize it was going to be based on the tower. Only maps inside the fortress give passive points. Over 300 nodes. As the entire atlas tree can be fully allocated, there's no need to allow respecialization for it anymore. Multi-choice nodes on the tree can be changed between options at any time. Perfect. Many maps in the fortress have ancient modifiers. Add or modify the contents of the map. Okay. Add 40 plus ancient modifiers that have a chance to appear on any map outside the fortress. Gateway maps with new bosses that can be used to access different sections of the fortress. Precursor tower maps have been added outside the fortress. Burning monoliths is in the fortress. Okay. Citadel maps with 2 new bosses that drop keys to the new pinnacle boss. Wait, I thought the new... Okay, so there's 2 new pinnacle bosses then? Or everything has a new pinnacle boss? I'm not sure. Maps in the fortress can alternatively be alternatively completed by killing Arbiter of Divinity 5 times to complete different sections of the fortress automatically in order to gain the Atlas Tree points. So if you just kill Arbiter 5 times, you get all the passive nodes? Is that how I'm understanding that? Ascendancy style progression for the endgame. Players can align with different masters. Okay, we already knew that. 12 nodes, of which 4 can be selected at the same time. You can change your selection at any time. All 3 masters can be allocated at the same time with quick select buttons. Change each master before you run a map. Already knew all that. Already knew all that. Okay. I'm not reading all that right now. There's now a hub, Withered Willow, for the Delirium, southwest of your starting location. The maps now around this location all contain Deliriums. Let's see. Well, every endgame thing has been revamped. Oh. The direction of the map boss can be observed by looking at the fog effect. Moving in the direction of the fog will always lead you to the map boss. Interesting. Map bosses will always be 100% delirious. Damage and life bonus. Can you have mod? Why would you want mod? I don't know you. Damage and life bonus given to monsters from Delirium has been reduced. Okay, so they're going to be less tanky, hopefully. New elites. New sub area. Amulet base types. Liquid emotions can now be used to craft additional mods on jewels. These work similarly to Greater Essence, each having a set of specific mods that will replace a random existing mod on them. Okay. Completing Delirium Mirrors now has a chance to spawn Grand Mirrors. Grand Mirrors create a duplicate of the map boss in the affected map. Killing both map bosses will unlock new Atlas mechanic, the Trial of Madness. After triggering Trial of Madness, fog will spread from a map of your choosing on the Atlas, including a locked simulacrum. While inside the fog, the entire map is delirious, starting at 10%. Killing rare monsters and the map boss increases the deliriousness of all maps in the fog. On reaching 100%, the simulacrum will become available. Deliriousness can be continued to be increased. Can continue to be increased up to 200% delirious. Rare and unique monsters and delirious maps have a set of new modifiers giving them strange new abilities. It can additionally drop a new set of 3 potent emotions that can be used to craft new powerful modifiers on jewels. These emotions can also be used to instill a set of 16 new passive tree notables that are not normally available on the passive tree. Okay. Simulacrum has been updated and is now a 7-wave encounter instead of, what is it, a 15-wave encounter currently? That shortens it, at least. Will now give you a key to face the new Delirium Pinnacle boss. There's now a set of 10 ancient emotions that can drop if unlocked by the Atlas tree, which can be used to craft time lost jewels. There are also 3 ancient potent emotions that can be used to craft new powerful modifiers on time lost jewels that are not normally available in the mod pool. Some non-amulet delirium uniques are now drop with the Raven Touched modifier, allowing them to be instilled. Interesting. Grants a progress bar. Stabilize breach. We already knew about that. Think it talked about that in the initial reveal. We already know about the Genesis tree. Affect what items can be crafted. New nodes are unlocked by using womb gifts. Added 6 new ring base types. Added 4 new amulet base types. 4 new belt base types. New set of caster and minion mods that have been crafted onto rings and belts. Most of this was already covered in the content reveal. Catalyst no longer drop from monsters. Solely obtained from the Genesis tree. Interesting. You have to use your womb gifts to get catalysts. Excuse me. I still think I'm gonna rush Breach, but I may end up rushing the Fortress first. I'm not sure. Added a new set of, we already read that. Killing monsters in a breach now drops Hive Blood and Wove Gifts and Breachstone Splinters. That's not changed, but that is, these are obviously new. Turn into a special womb gift when fully stacked. This can be turned into the Genesis tree to create a breachstone. New breach domains now spawn on the Atlas. Using a breachstone will reveal the maps hidden inside the domain, allowing you to enter them. Breach hives have a series of walls that can be burned by walking through them. Each wall destroyed. We know that. Sky hives. We know this. Okay. Fortresses are a new area. A new pair of bosses, Toolash. Defeating Toolash will give you a key to access the existing Breach Pinnacle boss. So there's no new Pinnacle boss for Breach, I don't believe. They may have given him some new abilities or something, but I don't think there's anything new about it. Or I don't think it's a new character or a new entity. Ritual Atlas passive tree is completely revamped with many new nodes, existing node changes. Point to the next altar. They added that to Freythorn as well, so that's good. All items in the endgame ritual reward screen are now either unique or omens. Good. Any tribute not spent. I wonder if that says endgame, so it won't affect Freythorn. Any tribute not spent on rewards can now be sacrificed to gain an audience with the king. Killing the king in the mist now drops a new key, the head of the king. This key can be used in Kertarth to begin the Rite of the Nameless. New Atlas mechanic, which allows you to choose a series of 5 maps. Oh, see, that's the 5 bosses thing. We know that. While choosing maps for the Rite of the Nameless, each map after the first will contain extra modifiers. We know that. Queen of the Mists available after allocating a special node on the Atlas tree. This boss can drop 3 new corrupted idols. Freythorn rituals are now prevented from ever showing deferred items to ensure items are not lost if returning to this area on a higher level character. Good, 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 good. Not that that should have ever been a problem in the first place, but, you know, it is what it is. Okay. 6 ancient beacons in Act 3. Energize them to detain the energized crystals and open a portal to the Val ruins. You'll encounter a second set of 6 ancient beacons in the interludes. There's now an Atlas tree. The fate of the Val League mechanic. Exari's temple can now be found on the Atlas to the north east of your starting location. The city of Val maps inside the city of your. They always have energized crystals and grant points. There are also new temple precursor tablets that will guarantee Val beacons in your map if you want to focus on this league. It is no longer possible to prevent a room from being deleted from the temple. Rooms that must be deleted but have other connections will be turned into simple path runes. This prevents the snake strategy. Okay. Yeah, that's a massive fucking nerf. The number of rooms in the temple when first starting has increased to allow getting to Atziri more quickly. Rooms can now be upgraded to tier 4 after unlocking this ability on the temple Atlas tree. This allows more specialization into the particular room types that encourages more interesting temple layouts. After defeating the architect has been significantly improved. Rewards from after defeating the architect have been significantly improved, with more varieties to unlock, in addition to upgrading the rewards of all existing ones. Will always destabilize upon exiting the temple. Restricted rooms in Atziri's temple that are accessible will always destabilize upon exiting the temple. So you have to do them or they're going to be gone. Scale with the number of paths in the temple in addition to other rooms. But you can't keep something from being destabilized. So what are the medallions good for? Rune-based medallions can no longer be used inside of an active temple. Rune-based medallions now display upgrade information when hovered. Medallions now output descriptive error messages when they cannot be placed. The default maximum number of energized crystals you can store has been increased to 60. The maximum number of medallions has been increased to 6. The medallions that increase the number of stored energized crystals or medallions are no longer necessary. Okay, so they reduced the number of medallions then, right? Monster level of the temple now factors in the level of the areas where the crystals used to open it were obtained. So then instead of it being just based solely on the character, it's based on the area level. So depending on how well these map mechanics go, you can get some really high level temples. Portals created in Atziri can now create a corresponding portal in the parent Val ruins for ease of access. While beacons now show a grayed out icon on the minimap when completed. There are 4 types of infusers. Existing Val infusers are now Val armorers infusers, which can be applied to armor. While blacksmith infusers can be applied to martial weapons, while Val arcanists infusers can be applied to wands, staves, and scepters. While catalyzing infusers can be applied to jewelry. All infusers can only be used on items at or above 20% quality. 8 of the Val currency items now have a maximum stack size of 5,000 when stored in the wildcard slots in the currency stash tab. Some of the well, that should just be for any currency, to be honest, but whatever. Some of the possible outcomes from applying to Val cultivation orbs to unique items have been updated. Atziri's rule staff can now roll 10 to 20% increased life cost efficiency. Series Splendor unique body armor can now roll 60 to 100 max energy shield. So they nerfed the fuck out of these, basically. Covenant body armor can now roll 10 to 25% increased life cost efficiency. Oof. Oof. 8 Forged unique gloves can now roll 16 to 30 maximum range if you've used a skill that requires glory in the past 20 seconds. That's a buff, but it's also like a really shitty item anyway. So Wrathpith Globe unique focus can now roll 8 to 15% Increased life cost efficiency. So almost everything had like a 25 to 50% nerf from the vault orbs. Okay, all vertex unique helmets can no longer roll plus 2 to 4 of all level skill gems, instead being able to roll 3 to 5 level of all curse skill gems. So it's a curse specific unique now. I don't know how that will be relevant, but we'll see. I'm sure somebody will make an interesting build with it. This is already talked about. Recombinator has been disabled. Existing omens of recombination will be deleted upon logging in. That fucking sucks. What am I reading? I'm reading the patch notes for the upcoming patch for Path of Exile 2. Precursor tablet's been disabled from dropping. Expedition explosives now wait to explode until most of the monsters unearthed by the previous explosive have been killed. Okay. You can now use currency from your stash to purchase items from the expedition vendors. Well, that makes that a lot easier. The recombinator being disabled is going to not feel great, for sure. I don't know how that's going to turn out. It's going to make crafting a lot harder. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. The Atlas has been reset. Your existing tablets and waystones will continue to work, so you can continue your progression as normal, but in order to gain points for the Atlas tree, you will need to do the Origins of Divinity storyline. Okay. Added support for searching. Yeah, we knew that. You can now zoom out slightly further on the Atlas screen. That's massive. Now 2 versions of each Pinnacle Voss, the Quest version and the Infinite Farm version. Different levels of Calamity Fragments can no longer be obtained. Thank you, I appreciate it. Snoop Dogg! Let's see what else we got. Tablets of the same type may but now be used together to increase the amount of league content that is spawned. Interesting. So you can make more shit appear in your maps. That's neat. That's neat. Each empty tablet slot now contributes to the amount of random non-tablet spawned league content in that area. This means that if all tablet slots are full, you'll only see the league content from the tablets you are using. The intent of this change is to make sure that you do not need to complete the Atlas trees for leagues you do not intend to run. Interesting. Waystones must now be identified in order to activate them in the map device. Because people were using unidentified waystones in order to get higher waystone drop chance. You can now use orbit chance on tablets. Some items and content now require you to specialize in them through the Atlas passive skills, including exceptional items, fracturing orbs, basic and overseer precursor tablets. Okay. Oh, I'm getting a mild headache. Tablets can no longer be used on maps that cannot have extra content. League-specific tablets no longer drop from non-map areas, such as Simulacrum, Abyssal Depths, or the Twisted Domain. So you can't get tablet drops unless you're doing that activity, basically. Lowered the base chances for Essence. Basically, for the random activities, they reduced them due to the much larger increase in the Atlas tree. So if you don't do the Atlas tree, you're not going to see shit. Atlas passives that reference maps with powerful map bosses now work with Overseer precursor tablets and other sources of powerful map bosses. Adjusting the value of general precursor tablet modifiers to be similar to the same type bonuses granted by Waystone modifiers also reduce the role variance of these modifiers. By the way, we're not even halfway. We're only like a quarter to a third. Oh. Whew, shit, excuse me. So, the following modifiers can no longer roll on Waystones, Barons, Beastly, Brambled, Dorianis, Enervating, Fairdunes, Hallowed of Nemesis, Nemesis? I don't know. Perennials, Rested, and Sacrificial. Oh. Whether a map modifier is a suffix or a prefix has been adjusted so that generally prefixes are modifiers that affect a monster output towards the players, and suffixes are modifiers that affect the player or monster defenses. The following suffix modifiers are now prefixes: of destruction, of fleeting, of impact, of penetration, of puncturing, of shattering, of splitting, and of venom. I don't know what all of those are. I know what of splitting and of venom are. I'm assuming that's elemental penetration. I'm sure that's like what is it? It's oh, what would that be? I can't remember what the modifier is, but it's where you can't get, where you have to get close to him to hit him. Can't remember the name of it. All right, so and then these ones, a bunch of them are now suffixes: enfeebling, buffering, enduring, eroding, evasive, flaming, hex warded, shocking, sleet, and slowing. Overpowering Waystone modifier no longer causes monsters to have increased freeze buildup, shock chance, or inflict increased flammability magnitude. It now causes monsters to have increased elemental ailment application. So instead of it being an option, it does all of them, or it just changed the wording to be shorter. Waystone modifier bonuses have been updated. They now provide more monster effectiveness, pack size, item rarity, monster rarity, or Waystone drop chance depending on the modifier. I thought that was already a thing. These modifiers are multiplicative with other sources, such as those found in the Atlas tree. Modifiers to pack size now also provide a chance for additional rare monsters to appear in rare monster packs. Okay. Monster rarity is a new stat available that affects the chances of magic and rare monsters and the chance for additional modifiers on rare monsters. Map modifiers that include sources of increased number of rare monsters or increased number of magic monsters have been updated to only display the number at the header of the map and not also be displayed amongst the explicit modifiers. This is not a functional change. Have the bonus to quantity of items dropped and experience gain provided by increased monster effectiveness. the functionality of the Omen of Chaotic Rarity, Omen of Chaotic Quantity, and Omen of Chaotic Monsters have been inverted. Instead of guaranteeing the new modifiers are of their type, they instead prevent the modifiers from being of their type. Well, that is something. Added the new Omen of Chaotic Effectiveness. While this item is active in your inventory, your next Chaos Orb will replace all modifiers on a Waystone with modifiers that do not grant monster effectiveness. Up to 3 of the above omens may be used simultaneously. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that they increased the resource usage to guarantee what you want. That's all I've gotten from all these. This whole section right here means instead of using 1 omen to guarantee what you want, you have to use 3 to guarantee what you want. It just inflated the amount of omens you're needing. That's all. Half the damage as extra buffs granted from the following shrines. Oh, damn, they nerfed shrines? Fuck. Completion of fixed locations on the Atlas are now shared with party members. With the addition of more varied content on the Atlas map of the size. On the Atlas map, the size of the content indicators has been increased by 50%. Waystones have received new 2D art. Okay. To improve how long it takes for experienced players to replay through the campaign in each new league, we've added elements to multiple campaign areas that tell you where to go. If you know what you're looking for, you can see some examples, blah, blah, blah. Okay. That's known. Some areas throughout the game have been shortened. Removed the second Dreadnought area, Dreadnought Vanguard. The Act 2 boss is now on the Dreadnought. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. Unless they lengthen the size of the Dreadnought, because you're going to be missing out on XP now. The level scaling is going to be awkward. I don't know how I feel about that one. I mean, great that shit is shorter technically, probably, but I don't know how the level of progression is going to be changed. Area order in Act 3 has been somewhat rearranged in order to make progression smoother. Waterway levers have been turned into pressure pads that you simply need to walk over, and the final part of the level has the water pre-drained. Monster density in the second half of the campaign has been reduced, especially in the interludes, to allow getting through these areas more quickly. But what about leveling? Are you making the experience more valuable? Are you making the number of monsters more valuable for experience? I don't understand. Bleed damage on players is no longer increased while the player is moving. This change does not affect bleeds players applied to monsters. Okay. I'm concerned about the monster density. I'm concerned about the Dreadnought. Other than that, I don't really... I mean, Waterways is fucking a massive W. Waterways is going to get shortened by like fucking at least 30 seconds, I would say. Just because you're not having to full clear, like, you're going to be able to go through it on any character without any issues. It's not like, oh, hey, I need a shield and armor to pull this lever while people are beating on me, you know? So that's a big W. Bleed damage on players is no longer increased while the player is moving. This change does not affect bleeds players apply to monsters. I already read that. Max Runic Ward is now added to your starting honor when beginning a trial of the Sekima. Okay. That seemed kind of obvious. Defenses keyword is no longer in use. Existing uses of the word defenses are now explicitly referred to armor, evasion, and energy shield to make it more clear that these modifiers do not apply to runic ward resistances or block or other forms of protection. This is purely a description change. Only a single leech instance per resource. Life, mana, or energy shield can apply at a time. When multiple leech instances are active, only the one with the highest recovery rate will recover you until it expires, and after which the next highest recovery rate instance will apply. That is a massive nerf to leech. I don't see leech being super viable now. There's now a limit on the maximum amount of damage a hit can be considered to deal for leech. Hits that deal less than 40,000 total damage are unaffected, but if a hit would deal more than 40,000 total damage, it is treated as dealing only 40,000 damage for the purposes of leech calculation. Values of each damage type in the hit are scaled down evenly to reach this limit. This means that for extremely high damage hits, stop improving leech past a certain point, but increasing your leech percentage will always increase the amount of resource you are gaining. That seems really fucking bad unless they increase the base percentage of leech. All right. The formula for chance to deflect has been adjusted to provide better scaling with the investment into deflection rating with a cap of 95% chance to deflect. Okay. The new chance to deflect is 150 times. What's up, Bailey? 150 times 1 minus A divided by A plus 12% of D, where A is attacker accuracy rating, D is a defender deflection rating. So nothing much happening. I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Just reading the patch notes so I can determine what I'm going to do for builds on League Start for Path of Exile 2. I'm trying to read through everything so I get more of an idea of what's going on, and then once I get through all of the abilities, then I start going through some of my builds. Do you play PC or console? I'm on PC. And I'll go through my builds and adjust them. Parry shield, block, and resonating shield no longer delay. Heavy stun build up from decaying longer than affected. Longer than expected. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna be honest. Do I play any other games? I play a lot of games. I want to be a variety streamer, but you know, that's kind of hard to break into. Let's see. Melee attacks can now apply only splash damage once per damaging area. Once per damaging area. Some attacks create multiple damaging areas during use. For example, Whirling Slash creates multiple damaging areas around you as you move. I don't... What's my favorite game? Probably Path of Exile 2 at the moment. I don't know how I feel about this. This could potentially make clearing like a big pain in the ass. For melee builds, because I feel like a lot of melee builds are dependent on overlapping areas. So that could be troublesome. Let's see. Minions are removed due to resources changing, such as weapon swapping. Younger minions are now prioritized for removal over older minions to avoid wasting minion cooldown abilities unnecessarily. That's good. That could potentially make minion in the campaign better, but probably not by a crazy amount. Minions affected by the last gasp support or Tech Rod's Revenge. Lineage support and totems affected by the unnamed Heartwood Oracle notable passive skill can no longer die during the effect from taking further damage exceeding their maximum life. I didn't even know that was a thing. Stats worded as when you collect a remnant no longer give you the benefits of these stats when an ally shares the effect of a remnant with you. That's unfortunate. Updated the name of the buff that Trinity grants to Affinity, as Resonance is the name of a keystone passive skill. This is a purely description update. Whilst I appreciate the offer, I am not in the market for any digital art. Updated the name of the... Oh wait, we just read that. Archon buffs are no longer inherently lost when you attack. This is now a property of Elemental Archon specifically. I understand that, but I'm okay. I appreciate the offer though. So they gave a lot of lineage supports that we're going to have to look into. So we knew about the martial arts. We knew about Spirit Walker. We don't know what all of these do. We'll have to look these up individually, probably. I appreciate the offer. I'm okay. It's not, I don't doubt your work. I'm just not in the market for it. Yeah, that's a lot of new lineages. That's a lot. Congratulations on leveling up. Added 8 new idols that come exclusively from monsters possessed by Asmerian spirits. Added the new Minion Splash and Minion Splash 2 strength support gems. These support skills which create minions which strike, causing those minion strikes to have melee splash. Maybe that could be good. I mean, that's definitely like, that definitely makes like melee minions more viable for clearing. Fragment stash tab is now available for use in Path of Exile 2. You can hold your fragments, including breach splinters, simulacrums, audience with the king, inscribed ultimatums, and barriers, as well as tablets. If you previously purchased one in Path of Exile, it will automatically be made available to you once the 0.5 patch is deployed. For those without a fragment stash tab, you will be able to find this stash in the stash tab section of the microtransaction store after 0.5 goes live. Okay, that's something I'm definitely going to buy, because that's just massive. Added support for build guides. Community creators who write build guides can now create the .builds files for players to download when selected in the in-game. When selected in the game client, these will show you everything you need to know for that build, including passive skills. We already knew about that. Added the ability to quickly search the trade market with an item you have. Shift-Alt-clicking an item will populate the filters for searching. Shift-Alt-clicking on an item will populate the filters for searching the trade market so you can see the current prices. For rarer items, you can enable and disable each modifier to easily determine the effect of each one has on an item's price. I didn't even know that you could search in-game. Is that already a thing? I don't know how that works. You can now quickly revive any fallen party members after defeating the boss. Okay. You can now skip dialogue sequences with NPCs by pressing escape. That's massive for speedrunning. Added a reforging bench to the entrance of the Trial of Sekimas. Okay. Oh, for... Yeah, I gotcha. To allow you to do the, Oh, what are they fucking called? The relics easier. Added a reforging bench to the entrance of the Trial of Sekimas. I just read that. I don't know why I reread that. Continued to incrementally improve sound, art, effects, and environments. Yep. Acolyte Cheula into the breach skill granted by the Walking Dream notable passive now grant leech 20% of your maximum life to you when collecting a red flame of Cheula. and leech 20% of your maximum mana when you collect a blue flame. Okay. So it's a slight buff. But you can only have one instance of leech, so that's the only instance of leech you'll get, more than likely, because you're not going to have a larger instance, more than likely, than 20% of your max HP. The wording of the Into the Breach skill has also been updated to clarify behavior ranges related to the Flames of Chayula. Into the Breach now applies modifiers to remnant pickup range to the range at which Flames of Chayula can be seen. This is a purely visual change. Blood Mage, the Vitality Siphon notable skill. Passive now grants 20% of spell damage. I just looked over and guy that dies is updating his what do you call it? He's updating his loot filters like very quickly. He has started upgrading his loot or changing his loot filters. Interesting. Rapid River notable passive skill has been removed. Its position has been taken by now and again. Oh, sorry. Vitality Siphon got nerfed. 50% nerf. They released this video yesterday or day before, I can't remember, but the changes seemed pretty nice. Now again, passive skill has been reworked. It now grants cascadable spells have 20% chance to echo, and repeatable spells have a 20% chance to repeat. The Unbound Encore, two notable passive skills, has taken the previous position of now and again. Ultimate Command, notable passive skill, now requires Unbound Encore. Added the new phased form, notable skill, preceding footprints in the sand. Phased form grants 30% less damage, and 4 seconds after being damaged by an enemy hit, take damage equal to 30% of that hit's damage. Temporal Rift skill granted by the footprints in the sand, notable passive skill has been updated. It now has a cast time of 0.1 seconds and now removes delayed damage from phase form. The Inevitable Agony skill granted by the Inevitability notable passive skill has been reworked. Where am I? It is no longer a curse and has a 2-second cooldown. The debuff is now a life loss effect instead of a secondary hit damage. The debuff amount is now displayed on static health bars. The debuff also now instantly calls enemies when total life lost reaches Culling Strike threshold. Now grants debuffed targets debuffed targets lose life equal to 25% of hit damage dealt to them, while debuffed previously 50%. Enemy curse effectiveness no longer applies to this skill, meaning unique enemies have the same effectiveness as previously, while other enemies have less. Debuff duration is now 12 seconds. Quality now grants 0.5 meters to initial cast radius. The skill has also received new visual effects. Damn, he went through the fucking patch notes quickly. I think he just skimmed for twisters and just fucking went on with his day, because we're only halfway done. Sands of Time buffs granted by the Quicksand Hourglass notable passive skill now grants 1 to 60% increased skill speed instead of cast speed. Ooh, skill speed is kind of crazy, actually. So let's use melee skills on it more now. Crystalline potential notable passive skill has been removed. Added a new notable skill passive, Essence of Virtue. It grants Virtuous Barrier, which while active conjures a glittering barrier that accumulates protective gemstones of gemstone motes of each attribute type over time, but loses a random mote when you are hit. The advanced thaumaturgy notable skill has no longer grants the thaumaturgical dynamism skill. It instead now grants gem quality, grants socketed skills, an additional effect. All gems in the game now have additional quality stat that can be seen while holding Alt on the gem after picking this notable. So you have to make a gemling in order to see what it does. So I'm going to make at least one merc by the end of the season just to see and potentially make a build off of this, though I don't know if it's going to be good or somebody else is going to find out that information. The overwhelming toxicity. Oh, okay, we're on Pathfinder. Overwhelming toxicity notable passive now grants 50% less poison duration, so they nerfed it. They just nerfed Pathfinder in general. That's rough. I don't even think poison was the main build Pathfinder was going, to be honest, but alright. Witch Hunter obsessive rituals now grant 50% less armor and evasion rating, so they nerfed the Witch Hunter's defenses on top of it. Added 19 new companion-themed passive skills to this passive tree. Added 9 new life recoup speed passive skills to the passive tree. Added a new Archon of Undeath cluster to the Witch Sorceress area of the passive tree. The Ancestral Bond Keystone passive skill now causes placing totems to have no cost and not require consuming charges to... Not require consuming charges to place. It still causes the totems to reserve 75% spirit each and now doubles the totem limit instead of removing it completely. So it's still trash. That's what I'm reading here. This is still fucking trash. I can't say I've ever seen a build use this notable. Or this keystone. Like, I've never fucking seen it. Trusted Kinship Keystone passive skill now grants 30% more reservation efficiency of companion skills and 20% less reservation efficiency of non-companion skills. Okay, so let me get this straight. This new keystone that we don't know yet already does better than self-sacrificing, because self-sacrificing only gives you 20% and you can only access it by being an oracle. So like, what the fuck? It no longer provides you have less 30% less defenses, or companions have +1 to each defense for every 2 of that defense you have. Okay. Volpack Keystone passive skill now grants 50% more amount of life leached, 60%, 67% less life leech speed, cannot recover life other than from life leech, and life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. It no longer provides life leech, is instant, or cannot use life flasks. Yeah, but you can't use life flasks because you can't recover life from anything other than leech, so what's the point? Reformed barrier cluster has been removed. I don't know what the fuck that is. Let's pull it up. Somebody's doing runs. Who's doing runs? No, that's just a commercial. What is reformed barrier? I mean, it doesn't matter because it's going to be removed. Okay, so yeah, there's a good reason for that to be removed. Nobody fucking uses that. Warding fetish cluster is moved to locations and no longer connects to a jewel socket. What is warding fetish? Am I blind? Oh. There it is. That's been moved. Okay. So I got rid of shit that was connecting to jewel sockets is what I'm reading here. Adamant recovery, notable skill, notable passive skill has been replaced by fortified Aegis, which grants 100% increased armor, evasion, and energy shield from equipped shield. Adamant recovery? What is that? Okay, yeah, that's fine. That basically never got used either. Arcane Mixture, notable passive skill now grants 10% increased cast speed if you've used a mana flask recently instead of 25% increased energy shield recharge rate. Okay, that's probably a buff. Bastion of the Forest, notable passive skill now grants 10% faster start of energy shield recharge. Okay, that's small nerf. Casting Cascade, notable passive skill now grants 6% increased cast speed for each different spell you've cast in the last 8 seconds. So it stacks up higher. Okay. Oh. Potentially stacks up higher, it just lasts longer. Chakra of Breathing, notable passive skill now grants 20% faster start of energy shield recharge instead of 1% increased energy shield recharge per 4 dexterity. So it's just flat instead of scaling. They didn't like the scaling. Okay. Commanding Rage, notable passive skill is now 2% increased minion attack speed per 5 rage, previously 1% per rage. Oof. I don't know who had a build that was using that, but clearly they didn't like it. What is this called? Commanding Rage. Oh no. Did they just fucking fully nerf it and get rid of the minion damage on it? Or it only affects the attack speed of it? I hope it only affects the attack speed of it. And I hope mentorship gets this negative removed. Convalescence, notable passive skill now grants 20% faster start of energy shield recharge. And now 10% reduced energy shield recharge rate. So that got a heavy nerf and a slight buff. That's rough. They couldn't even fucking buff it by the same percentage they nerfed it by? That's crazy. The core of the Guardian notable passive skill now grants 30% increased block chance and 20% reduced maximum energy shield. Core of the Guardian notable... Where's Core of the Guardian? That's not bad. That's pretty good. 30% increased block chance? Yeah, that's actually really good. That's basically... Because almost every shield will... And it only affects energy shield users for shields. So, like... That's a big buff, actually. Because you'll be able to instantly go to 40% block chance with the max being 50. And all you do is lose some energy shield, so it doesn't affect armor users at all. Covering ward notable passive skill now grants 25 energy shield when you block, previously 20, and 12% increased block chance. It no longer grants 25% increased energy shield recharge rate. Craving Slaughter notable passive skill now provides plus 15 max rage if you've used a skill that requires glory in the past 20 seconds, previously plus 8 per skill in the past 6 seconds. So it's a buff on its duration, a nerf on its cap. Interesting. Critical Overload notable passive skill now provides 15% increased critical spell damage bonus, previously 15% increased spell damage if you've dealt a critical hit recently. I'm gonna be honest, I think that's worse. I genuinely think that's probably worse. Cunning Fox notable passive skill has been replaced with the Quick Fox, which grants 20% increased deflection rating while moving. The small all attributes passive prior to the notable now grant 20% increased evasion rating while moving. Okay. Deadly Force notable passive skill now provides 15% increased critical hit chance, previously 10%, and 15% increased damage if you've dealt a critical hit in the past 8 seconds. The Dependable Ward notable passive skill now grants 8% to Chaos Resistance, and 12% faster start of Energy Shield. Recharge, previously 25%. Luna, come here. Hey, come here. Come here. I can't reach you. Come on. You're such a pain, dog. Okay. That doesn't seem very good, to be honest. It's a hell of a nerf, I would say. Devoted Protector, notable passive skill now grants 10% faster start of Energy Shield recharge. Echoing Pulse, notable skill passive now grants echoed spells have 25% increased area of effect. It no longer grants the final repeat of spells have 30% increased area of effect, which did not function. So they couldn't get it to work, so they just fucking removed it. That's kind of funny. Effective notable passive skill. No, the Effervescent notable passive skill now grants 4% increased cast speed for each different spell you've cast in the last 8 seconds. So overall buff. Energizing Archon notable passive skill now grants 30% increased Archon duration instead of 40% increased energy shield rate while affected by Archon buff. I don't see how that could be bad. I mean, if you're depending on that for your energy shield recharge, then I guess that sucks, but I mean, duration on Archon can't be bad, surely, right? I don't use Archon personally, so I don't know. Energizing Deflection, notable passive skill, can now grants 12% faster start of energy shield recharge instead of 30% increased energy recharge rate. That's a hell of a nerf. Okay. Essence Infusion, notable passive skill, now grants 12% faster start of energy shield recharge and plus 12 to intelligence. It no longer grants 40% increased energy shield recharge rate. That also feels like a hell of a nerf, unless they just overall increased the base rate of energy shield recharge. Which I doubt. Oh, fuck. Fast Metabolism, notable passive skill, now grants 40% increased damage while leeching life. Previously, life leech effects are not removed when unreserved life is filled. So you just get 40% increased damage if you use life leech. Because they put this on something else. I think it removed all other forms of healing, is where they moved that to. So that's interesting. Fortifying, I don't see it. You'd most definitely use that on Blood Mage if Blood Mage is still good. Fortifying Blood, notable passive skill, now grants 15% increased amount of life leeched. Nerf. Goring, notable passive skill, no longer grants 40% increased physical damage. It now grants 3% increased maximum life and 20% increased amount of life leech. That seems like a hell of a nerf. Holy fuck. Why? Goring? Yeah, that's one hell of a nerf. So what did they change? No longer grants 40% increased physical damage, now gains 3% increased maximum life and 20% amount of life leech. So they nerfed it all the way around. They just fucking nerfed the shit out of it. That's rough. Oh, shit. Okay. The Immortal Infamy notable passive skill now grants 6% increased life recovery rate instead of 10% increased energy shield recharge rate. Okay. Lifelong Friend and Nurturing Guardian. I don't know what those are, but they said that switched positions. Minions revive 35% faster if all your minions are companions. So let's just do that just to see where that's at. And then Nurturing Guardian. So they moved it further away. That's rough. I'm assuming they changed the small passives on the way to that, but that is quite the rough loss as far as I'm concerned, because that is going to be a lot more points out just to get there. But, hmm. I mean, I guess if you're using it, then it doesn't. If you're using it, you're probably just doing only minions anyway, and you're probably not using it until later in the campaign or later in the game anyway. So, um, see. Ooh, why am I getting a headache? Why am I having issues right now? Fuck. I'll be right back. All right, we're back. I am going to be taking like small breaks here and there because I am cooking just in case this lightheadedness is due to calories because I haven't ate a whole lot today. Let's see, where were we? Oh yeah, we were at Lifelong Friend. Mystic Stance notable passive skill now grants 12% faster start of energy shield recharge. Damn, they really fucking nerfed the shit out of some energy shield recharge, huh? Patient Barrier now grants 50% increased maximum energy shield. That is such a minimalistic nerf. But with all the other nerfs to energy shield, we'll see how it goes. The quick response notable passive skill now grants 10% faster start of energy shield recharge. Hell of a nerf, and 20% faster start of energy shield recharge when not on full life. Not too bad of a nerf on that side. Rapid recharge notable passive skill now grants 12% faster start of energy shield recharge and 12% increased energy shield recharge rate. So again, one hell of a nerf. Energy shield might not be like the best in the game anymore. We'll have to see. The refocus notable passive skill now grants 20% increased mana regeneration rate while stationary instead of 30%. Just nerfing a lot of shit. I don't really see a whole lot of buffs coming out on this. Shatter Palm notable passive skill now provides 20% increased critical damage bonus. Previously 10% chance to daze. Don't know how I feel about that. I mean, technically it increases the damage, but daze makes stunning them easier, and there are a lot of nodes that increase damage when stunning, so I don't really know how that's gonna go. The Shimmering notable passive skill now grants 10% faster start of energy shield recharge and 20% increased evasion if you have been hit recently. It no longer grants 20% increased energy shield recovery rate if you haven't been hit recently. Okay. Staggering Palm notable skill now provides 25% increased physical damage. Small buff. Okay, so they moved this around. So they gave this a small buff. That's not terrible. Storm Charged notable passive skill now provides damage penetrations, 8% of enemy elemental resistances, and 5% increased attack and cast speed with elemental skills. It no longer provides 15% increased critical hit chance or 40% increased elemental damage if you've dealt a critical hit recently. That is one fucking hell of a nerf. Holy shit. What is this called? Storm Charged? Yeah, that's one fucking hell of a nerf. Holy shit. I'll be right back. I gotta go check on my food. Yeah, just until my food's done, I'm going to be getting up every couple minutes to double check on that. Yeah, that's one hell of a nerf. Tempered Mind notable passive skill now provides 15% increased effective fully broken armor. The fuck? I'm assuming that's around warrior area. Yep. No, that's tempered defenses. Where's tempered mind? Did I misspell? Where the fuck is tempered mind? Oh, here it is. So no longer grants increased critical damage bonus. It grants what instead? 15% increased effective fully broken armor. Okay. That's not terrible. Voracious notable passive skill no longer grants 20% of life leeches instant and now grants 15% increased attack speed while leeching. That doesn't seem very great. The wide barrier notable passive skill is now grants 30% increased block chance and 20% reduced armor. Previously 25% reduced defenses. Okay, so that helps for energy shield users. Okay. Wyvern's breath notable passive skill has been updated and now provides 40% increased elemental ailment application if you have shape-shifted to an animal form recently. What the fuck? But it already did that. Increased chance to inflict. Elemental ailment application. How does that functionally change? It's otherwise identical because it applies to freeze, but it applies to freeze buildup. So freeze buildup happens faster. That's all that changes. That's not atrocious, I guess. Let me double check on my food. Probably give those like 3 more minutes. Okay. First two small spell damage passive skills at the starting area of the passive tree for the witch and sorceress now provide 10% increased spell damage, previously 8. Okay. So a small buff to their early game damage, like a very minuscule buff. Small passive skills that grant faster start of energy shield recharge now have values of 6, previously 15. That's one hell of a nerf. Small passive skills that grant energy shield recharge rate have been removed from the passive skill tree and replaced by faster start of energy shield recharge at a lower value. Okay, so they're trying to nerf the shit out of energy shield overall. Because if you can't recharge it quickly, then you're definitely not, unless they change convalescence. They might change convalescence. We don't know yet. Small passive skills granting 10% increased amount of life leech now have a value of 8%. Hi, welcome Sammy. We're reading patch notes before doing build guide changes. No, it's all good, Sammy. You don't have to explain yourself. I'm just glad you showed up. What's the most important change? Don't know yet. I'm only halfway through. Well, you could already see that on Twitch, but I'm only halfway through the patch notes. And I've been streaming for an hour and a half. It makes me feel like I'm not very literate. But I've also been, like, looking at stuff in the passageway and whatnot, but regardless, it's taking a little while to get through. See. Small nerf there. Small banner area of effect passive skills now provided 12. Small nerf there. Area tactician passive skill now provides 16% increased banner area of effect. Small nerf there. Unsavory feast timeless jewel notable no longer grants 20% instant life leech if you have at least 200 tribute. It now grants life leech 35% faster if you have at least 100 tribute. Interesting. Be right back. All right, I'm going to eat my rice and vegetables, and then I'll go back and make the chicken. So didn't feel like trying to cook the chicken at the same time. Okay. Skill changes. Skills with a fixed number of projectiles, such as Glacial Lance, can now benefit from effects that cause projectile count modifiers to apply to something else instead, such as Ricochet 2-3 support. What? I don't know what Ricochet 3 does, so now I've got to look that up. Ricochet 3 AoE 2. Modifiers granting additional projectiles instead cause projectiles from supported skills to chain an additional time from terrain per projectile they would have gained. I don't know. I don't understand. Oh, I closed the wrong window. I don't understand. Okay, so if you have projectile count, but it doesn't affect Glacial Lance, it can still benefit from shit like Ricochet 3. Okay. Skills which have a cost of 0 mana now display this cost. This allows players to distinguish between skills like default attacks, which do not have a cost at all, and are thus unaffected by any plus cost modifiers from those which do have a base cost, but with 0 base value, which are affected by all plus cost modifiers, even if they add different resource costs, like adding life cost to a skill with a base mana cost of 0. I honestly have no idea what the fuck I just read there. I don't know how relevant that is. I'm not a guru. Crossbow ammunition skills now have a base cost of 0 rather than having their cost completely disabled, meaning that effects that add additional costs will now apply to them. But if it's 0, how are you adding cost? Like, I don't... What am I missing here? And ignites inflicted on targets by oil ground that have been ignited can no longer compound and cannot be compounded with by other ignites from the same skill use. All command skills now have a 50% movement speed penalty during skill use, previously 70, so that's a buff for command skills. Align Fate, granted by oracles. Fateful Vision notable passive now has modifiers to cooldown. Recovery also applied to Visage appearance frequency. Okay. That's not bad. So your Visages will cast more skills then. No longer... Ancestral Warrior Totem no longer has a hidden 0.6 second delay between skill uses. Instead, this delay is now 50% of the skill's attack time and is described accordingly on the skill. Bone Storm no longer has the sustain tag. What does that mean? Like, I get that this is going to be gone, but what sustained skills cause a large number of hits over a period of time. They roll for critical hits independently each time they damage the enemy, rather than rolling once for the entire skill as other skills do. Oh fuck, that could potentially be one hell of a nerf. Oh no. That could potentially be a massive nerf. Because with that means it's all or nothing on the crit, meaning you're only going to get crit for the way that I've built it in the past. You're only going to get crit 1 in every 3 casts instead of at least a couple crits every cast. That is no bueno for Bone Storm. That is one hell of a nerf. Holy. They nerfed Bone Shatter. They nerfed Comet. They nerfed the hell out of the Infused Comet. What the fuck? Call the Weak now has can't be evaded. Now deals 109% to 281%. So that's a massive buff for Call the Weak. It's faster. Costs less. Which one is Call the Weak? Spear skill. Okay, so it does what again? Can't be evaded. Deals almost double the damage. It's faster and costs less. And goes farther. I don't know if that's gonna be used still, but I don't know that character that well, so. Banners no longer have a movement speed penalty, and their radius has been increased. Earthquake had a slight numbers tweak. I don't know if that's going to make it viable, but it is better now. Eternal Rage is now an all or nothing spirit gem. It has to be in both sets or none at all. So it stops you from generating rage in one set and using it on the second set. What the hell is Feral Invocation? Okay, so that no longer bypasses the cooldown? That seems kind of lame. Because every... Huh. Flame Breath now has an energy gain penalty similar to Incinerate. So you can't gain... I'm assuming that means you can't gain energy while using it. Fortifying Cry now only consumes one stack when you detonate a shield wall to create a shockwave around each shield wall segment. Fortifying Cry shockwaves from a single shield wall cannot hit the same enemy multiple times. Shield wave now deals 5 to 7 added physical damage per 15 armor on shield. That is one massive nerf to shield wall for speedrunning. I don't know how that affects the end game, because Fortifying Cry is the main way of detonating your walls in the end game, or for Tavakai and whatnot. So if that is removed, then you do a lot less damage with shield wall potentially. Fragmentation rounds, quality now grants increased fragments per shot. Raising Salvo has less freeze buildup. Wow, that's one hell of a nerf on Freezing Salvo. It's going to nerf the shit out of the snipe build. The Ice Shot snipe build. Gathering Storm now causes perfectly timed dash to explode any Tempest Bell on it, creating a massive shockwave that deals... What? What is Gathering Storm? Am I... Flip backwards and channel your charge quarterstaff with lightning releases dashes towards the target location, damaging enemies along the way. Release. I don't think I've ever fucking seen Gathering Storm.
Hold down the button for Gathering Storm.
I've never
to
once
build up
used
power
that. I've
before
never
dashing through
seen
enemies,
it used.
striking all in your path. Release the storm at the
So, what changed? To explode any Tempest Bell on hit at gem levels 13 to 20. Shock ground is left in the wake of a Tempest, of the Tempest Shockwave. The radius of 3.2 meters. Turning precise timing into a devastating area clearing combo. Perfect timing shockwaves can now only hit enemies once per skill use and no longer interact with objects created by non-Tempest Bell skills. Shockwave limit is now 50. Quality now grants 0 to 20% longer perfect timing window. I don't know if that's going to be used still. I mean, the massive shockwave sounds cool. It could potentially be massive burst damage, especially with Tempest Bell. Or like double Tempest Bell on a boss, maybe. Ghost Stance. The interval between gaining Ghost Shrouds is no longer a duration. It now has modifiers to cooldown. Recovery rate also applies to Ghost Shroud gain frequency. It also now has when hit, lose a Ghost Shroud and regenerate energy shield equal to 2% of your evasion rating per second if you have lost a Ghost Shroud recently, which is in the last 4 seconds. That's what recently means in this game. Grim Resurrection now has a 1-second cooldown. I guess it had no cooldown in the past. Ice Shards no longer have 25% more freeze buildup. Okay. That doesn't seem like that big of a nerf. I mean, it is a nerf, but it's not massive. Ice Strike quality now grants 0 to 20% increased attack speed. Lightning Arrow. Multiple lightning beams are no longer able to chain onto the same target. Huh. That sounds really bad. Like, that sounds really fucking bad. Triggered move beads are no longer considered melee skills. Like, I don't know how that's going to interact, to be honest. But it sounds horrendous. Like, that could kill the skill. I don't know. I don't use Lightning Arrow that much, but it sounds really bad. Magma Barrier now deals 5 to 7 added fire damage per 15 armor and evasion on shield, previously 6 to 8. So it got nerfed. Mirage Archer and Mirage Deadeye can now be used with channeled skills including Snipe, Plasma Blast, and Detonating Arrow. Mirror of Refraction, granted by the Atziri's Roll unique staff, now has modifiers to cooldown recovery rate also apply to mirror appearance frequency. Oil Barrage. Oh, this is going to be potentially bad. Mana cost has been reduced by 18%. Empowered Oil Barrage now has a mana cost per second equivalent to the initial mana cost of Oil Barrage. Oil Barrage now deals 10% more damage at all levels, while Empowered Oil Barrage now deals 10% less damage at all levels. Empowered Oil Barrage now consumes a power charge every 1.5 seconds to continue channeling. That could be a hellacious nerf. The 10% damage nerf doesn't seem that bad. the duration nerf could be rough, because that means your max channel is essentially 3.5 seconds instead of 6. Or no, 4.5 seconds instead of 6. Yikes. That I don't know. I mean, you should still potentially be able to one-shot bosses with oil barrage, but with the channeled cost, you're gonna have to definitely use you're gonna have to definitely keep up with your mana pots. Parry. The area of effect has been changed to more closely matched animation, no longer has bonus attack distance. So you hit less shit with parry? They nerfed it? Poison burst arrow. Poison duration is now 3 seconds at all gem levels, so it's a nerf. Quality now grants magnitude of poison. It's just an all-around nerf. Ooh, shit. Pounce got a hellacious nerf. Oh man, Pounce got a hellacious nerf. That's a lot of time, believe it or not. 2 seconds, especially in like speedrunning stuff, 2 seconds is gonna be a lot. That's rough. I mean, it's still gonna have to be used because it's the only movement skill you can get prior to Leap Slam, but that's... Whew! Now has modifiers to cooldown recovery rate also apply to swarm spawning frequency. I didn't even know that they had a frequency. I thought the swarms were just persistent. Rend fixed a bug where lightning charged Rend was scaling twice with levels. The base damage hasn't been increased to compensate. Lightning charged Rend now deals 130 to 405% attack damage at levels 1 to 20. I don't know what that means, but Rend is probably going to feel like shit. That's a hellacious nerf. That is a hellacious nerf. Nerf to Resonating Shield. Now chains 3 times at gem level 1. Previously 2. Scaling up to chain 5 times at gem level 20. Previously 4. Okay. I don't know if that's going to be good or not. Rolling Slam is faster. Now has a +1 a second to a total attack time. First Slam deals less damage. A second Slam does less damage. So they nerfed Rolling Slam, but made it a little bit faster. Like, they gave it such a minuscule increase in speed and gave it a massive fucking nerf. Like, what the fuck? It's like a 30% nerf. Shattering Spite granted by the Atziri's Content. Unique Spear now has 50% less magnitude of damaging ailments you inflict. No longer has life leech from explosions. With at least 15 Bloodstone Lances is instant. So they nerfed this. Ooh. They nerfed Shield Wall. I don't know how big of a difference that's going to make, but it is going to make a difference. Shred quality now grants 20% increased attack speed. So I gave Shred some more attack speed. They nerfed Snipe. Oh no, they buffed it. Probably, kind of. That should be an overall buff. That they nerfed its they nerfed early. They nerfed early snipe, but potentially stronger later snipe. Spell totem, and they nerfed the base damage of snipe, where they nerfed the hit of snipe. Can now be used while moving and has received an updated animation. Still probably not going to use it. Supercharged Slam now more clearly states that it has a fixed attack time that cannot be modified. This is purely a description change. Well, that's lame. Tame Beast. Summon Beasts now deal 40% more damage at gem level 9, scaling up to 84% more damage at gem level 20. Now immediately summons newly tamed beasts if you have enough spirit. Tempest Bell can now be ancestrally boosted as if it were a strike skill, and its maximum number of active bells has been increased to 3, previously 1, greatly improving its combo potential. Its shockwave now deals 45 to 119% damage at gem levels 3 through 20, so it gave it a slight damage nerf and a slight trigger nerf. But you have 3 base. So potentially better bossing for Monk. Toxic Growth now fires 5 pistols, previously 4, with a limit of 5 pistols, previously 12. That's rough. Quality now grants fires +1 pistols and limit to +1 pistols. Damn, that's rough. Thrashing Vines, updated description to clarify how frequently it spawns vines. This is not a functional change. So they didn't even buff Thrashing Vines? Thrashing Vines is so fucking garbage in the campaign, though. I mean, with the Bone Storm changes, it might be on par with Bone Storm, but I still don't see that happening. It's a long-ass patch, Sammy. We're only halfway through. Time of need. The interval between blessings is no longer a duration. It has modifiers to cooldown recovery rate, applies to blessing frequency, and the interval has been reduced to... Okay, so they made time of need happen more frequently. They buffed Volcano slightly, not by a whole lot, but slightly. Whirling Assault quality now grants 0 to 20% increased attack speed, previously 0 to 15% more attack speed. And Wig Blast Shockwave now deals 25% more damage at all levels. Okay. I don't think I saw anything about Twister. It's because there is nothing about Twister. So Bone Storm got changed, Twister got changed, Essence Drain and Contagion did not get changed. So the only concern is Bone Storm. Will Bone Storm still be the best spell clear skill? And I don't know. I'm sure it'll still be good, but it won't. I don't think it'll hold its title as king. Like that could potentially be ridiculously bad for Bone Storm. Unleash, Expand, Salvo, and Freezing Salvo supports all now use the same concept of seals instead of each having their own version. This means standardized rules for seals that will be consistent for all cases, resulting in some behavior changes. Supports granting seals now consistently have all have the seal category. Freezing Salvo and Salvo support previously had an extra restriction that the relevant skill could not gain seals while you were performing that skill. This is no longer the case, bringing them into consistency with the other seal mechanics. Salvo support Previously gave a seal every 2 seconds up to a maximum of 3 and provided 2 projectiles per seal. It now gains a seal every 1 second up to a maximum of 6, providing 1 projectile per second. So functionally it's the same. Interesting. Advancing Storm can now support any storm skill under any conditions rather than only spells you use yourself. Okay. Arjun's Medal now grants 25% chance to load a bolt into all crossbow skills on dealing a killing blow with supported skills. Oh, that's rough. That's a hell of a nerf. Adzir's Impatience can no longer support persistent skills. Batar's Vengeance, when you freeze a target... How much is left, actually? Like, support changes, unique item changes... Item changes. Oh, that's a lot of item changes. Monster changes, quest changes. I don't care about the user interface changes. That's a lot of bug fixes that I'm probably not gonna look through. We still got a lot to go. For each 2 rage you have, you and your allies in your presence gain 1% of cold damage. Has cold damage for 15 seconds. Each 1 rage you have for... Okay, so that's a 50% nerf with a duration decrease. Brink can now be cut as a level 1 support. That is fucking massive for melee users, specifically warrior. That is crazy good for warrior. That's insane for warrior. Like, that's fantastic. Culmination 2 no longer has a combo count loss for supported skills occur 50% slower. It now has supported skills lose combo if you generate no combo for 6 seconds. Supported skills can now gain up to 10 combo, previously 20, and supported skills now deal 4% more damage per combo, previously 2. Still don't think Culmination is that good after the nerf. Once they added the cap, it kind of got fucking gutted. As soon as they added that cap, it got gutted, as far as I'm concerned. Corrupting Cry and Corrupting Cry 2 no longer causes a supported skill to inflict corrupted blood, but instead it triggers a skill which inflicts corrupted blood, scaled by the level of the gem it is socketed into. Okay. So, like, functionally no change? What? I don't get that. Decaying Hex no longer causes the supported curse to inflict decay. Instead, it triggers a skill which inflicts decay, scaled by the level of the gem it is socketed into. So, I guess this is just adding other ways to scale up your trigger damage, because there's, like... Let's see. Where is it? Like... I think it's right here in the witch tree. Right here. 50% increased damage if you've triggered a skill recently. That is actually fucking massive for my Chaos Druid. Because that means if it's triggering a skill, then you just get 50% increased damage on the Chaos Druid. It's kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. Adds 5%, so 50% nerf on Diala's Desire. No longer causes cursed ground created by supported skills to become hazards. Now causes cursed ground created by supported skills to spawn witch toads on an interval which seek out enemies and explode, dealing chaos damage. Okay, sure. Don't see the... I mean, it might scale up really fucking high, I don't know. Infernal Legion 1 now grants minions from supported skills take... Ooh, that's a... Ooh, man. Infernal Legion just got gutted. That's not getting touched. I mean, maybe minion instability just makes up for it, but I'm gonna bet on no. And there was only like 2 minions that made it Infernal Legion good. Yeah, that's no, Infernal Legion's not getting touched. At least not by me. Unless I see some serious seriously good builds, basically. Like Infernal Legion, you could just take it into endgame and go basically just off of Infernal Legion. I get it kind of needed a nerf, but realistically, they should have just nerfed the health of certain minions more than likely. Like it probably would have been better just to do a health nerf. Because there's only like 2 minions I know that are like actually make Infernal Legion good. And that just makes Infernal Legion bad in general. Just all around bad. Living Lightning no longer replaces minions when summoning a new one while already at maximum number of minions. I don't... Oh, that could kind of change the damage output on the Thunderstorm, Bone Storm interaction, or the Living Lightning Bone Storm interaction. Oh, can now support any storm skill under any conditions rather than only spells you use yourself. Overabundance 3 now properly describes that it cannot support persistent skills. Overextend can no longer be obtained. Existing items are unaffected by this change. Okay. No longer causes... Picati's Pact no longer causes the supported skill to inflict corrupted blood, but instead it triggers a skill which inflicts corrupted blood, scaled by the level of the gem is socketed into. No longer loses 2% of maximum life per corrupted blood inflicted by supported skill. Instead, it now has supported skills cost 10% of maximum life for each time they've been used recently, up to a max of 30%. I have no idea about this skill. I don't know if that's good or bad. Rage 1, 2, and 3 can now support minion skills. Okay. So you can double up on rage then? You give yourself rage and you give the minion rage? And double... That's probably why they nerfed that, That's probably why they nerfed this attack speed node. For the minions. But that's fine. It is what it is. But being able to put rage on minion skills will increase their damage, I'm sure. I don't know if it'll do more than muster or not, I'm not sure, but it'll increase their damage somewhat. Potentially. Wrath's Assault now grants supported skills, load 4 bolts when you dodge, previously 5. Nerf. And supported skills, load 3 additional bolts, previously 4. There's a moth in here, 1 second. Okay. Man, it's taken me fucking forever to get through this. Makes me question my literacy. I mean, I'm discussing each thing, but still. Refraction 1 now additionally causes supported. You're questioning your patience too? No, really, what? What are we no reallying? I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. No, I understand that. Now additionally causes supported banner skills to grant allies deflection rating equal to 15% of their evasion rating. Again, that's more. Shock conduction 2 can no longer be obtained. Oof. If that's what I think it is, then Thunderstorm just got heavily nerfed. What is shock conduction 2? Let's just double check that. Hits from supported skills always drenched shocked targets. Yeah, shock conduction 2. Fucking Thunderstorm's nerfed into the ground on that one. Thunderstorm is nerfed into the ground on that one. Static shocks. Triggers from shocking hits now grants +2 levels of supported skills if they have exactly 2 other supports that are modifying them. So that's a nerf. That's a nerf. Now grant supported skills gain 2 voltaic charge per meter traveled. Nerf. Supported skills now also gain 1% of damage as extra lightning per voltaic charge consumed. So Volt got a damage buff then? We'll probably just go through the... There's so much shit. Like, there's so much shit. Divine orbs are now more common. Interesting. Unique boots no longer grant 10% less movement speed and skill speed per dodge roll in the last 20 seconds and have more armor and evasion. Your speed is unaffected by slows while sprinting and gain over encumbrance for 4 seconds when you dodge roll. Existing versions of this unique can be upgraded to the new armor, evasion, energy shield values using a divine orb, but will not receive any other changes. The Apep's Supremacy unique focus no longer grants 30 to 50% faster start of energy shield recharge. Honestly, I've rarely ever used unique items, so I don't think I don't think any of this is like super relevant to me. Made rarer sucks. That sucks a lot that they're making those rarer. Because, like, I feel like once you get through the campaign, you shouldn't see normal ones. You should only see graders. And then once you get to a certain level, you should only see... Well, you should start seeing more perfects. But, like, reducing them... Making them rare and then significantly rarer seems like it kind of sucks ass, to be honest. Greater orbs now have a minimum modifier level of 44, previously 55, making them more accessible, and they now can begin dropping in Act 4. But even saying they can now begin dropping in Act 4, if you're making them significantly rarer, that's irrelevant, right? Like, what the fuck? The corruption outcome that randomizes the numeric values of the modifiers on an item beyond the normal range. Now multiplies each modifier based on the current value instead of randomizing the value. Fuck, so you gotta divine it before you corrupt it? That is a massive change for crafting. I'm gonna send that to my brother. Just so you can see that. Send that to my brother real quick. Sanctifying an item now multiplies each modifier based on the current value instead of randomizing values. That's why they made divine orbs more common, so you'd actually use them. That's tough. Moment of corruption can no longer be obtained. Oh fuck. That's no bueno. Martial weapons and flasks found in the campaign are now more likely to be of the highest base type available at that level. Oh, fucking... Finally. That is massive. That is a massive buff for going through the campaign. By doing this, you're less likely to get fucking shit drops in the campaign as a martial player, and you're more likely to actually be able to progress your build easily. That's fantastic. Overall number of essences found in the campaign has been increased, though the proportion of these being essences of the infinite has been significantly decreased. I don't care about the essence of the infinite. This will lead to finding more useful essences as you progress. Perfect. It's actually great. Wonderful. The amount of armor granted by items and modifiers has been increased as you get to higher levels. At 65, you should have approximately 33% more armor, tapering down to 50% at level 80 plus. I don't know if that makes it where even the lower rolls are slightly better, or if that's like removing the ability to get lower rolls. Energy shield didn't get a buff, so that's good. Vile robe got a nerf. Base armor of existing items will be automatically adjusted, while armor modifiers on existing items can be updated with a divine orb. Okay. Increase the base weapon range of some martial weapon base types. One-handed maces now have a base weapon range of 1.3, 1.5 for two-handed maces, and 1.4 for quarterstaves. The obliterator bow and the artillery bow now have 1.1 attacks per second. They nerfed it a little bit. The implicit modifier for Warden and Guardian bows now provides 25 to 35% chance to chain to additional time, previously 20 to 30. So slight buff. Implicit modifier for Rabid Fury and Magi talismans now provide 7 to 10 max rage. So a nerf. Why would you want to update that? That's a nerf. The implicit modifier for Volt Fang and Thunder Talismans now provides 20 to 30% increased magnitude of shock you inflict. Oh, is this only changes? I wonder, is Mage Blood even... Control F, Mage... Blood... It doesn't tell you anything. It just tells you that it's in the game. Okay. Okay. It increases magnitude of shock you inflict, but it's a small buff. Alternate quality items from breach catalysts may now be salvaged to return a portion of the catalysts used. It's not terrible, but if you're catalyzing them, more than likely you're just going to sell them. Plus level of all melee skills modifiers on two-handed attack weapons now has a value of +5 at tier 1, previously +7. The lower tiers have also been adjusted. Oh, that's a massive fucking nerf. Same thing with this. That's a big nerf. It's not as big of a nerf. Like, one-handed weapons are more viable on the plus skills now. Same thing with one-handed projectile weapons. Oh, nah. Quivers got hit hard. Holy. Holy. That means the, splintered bow is fucking useless. Because you used to scale that, you used to just use that and scale it up with the +2 projectile skills, but now you can't. That's rough. +2 level all gems on attack weapons can now only roll above level 18. Okay, so you can't get +1 attacks to your Act 1 weapons, so that sucks. Added surpassing chance to fire an additional arrow modifier for quivers. That's not terrible. Perfect Essence of Battle now provides +3 level to all attack skills on two-hand melee weapons or crossbows. That's rough. I don't think they... That's really rough. Perfect Essence of Battle is now going to be kind of dog shit, to be honest. Unless you're using something that uses both melee and projectile skills. That's, it's kind of dog shit. Wow, that is rough. I feel like they could have made that +4, but, +4 and +3, but, I mean, that's their choice. I mean, I was already +3 on, one-handed, but still, that's rough. Okay, they nerfed Essence of Hysteria, body runes. Okay, they buffed body runes. They nerfed the fuck out of body runes. It's not really much of a buff for mind runes. It's not that much of a buff for mind runes. Rebirth. It's not that much of a buff. Not that much of a buff for inspiration. Not a big buff for stone. I guess body is just the biggest one, just because it's health. Like, the problem with the mind rune in comparison is that even though it's getting 25 more as opposed to 20 more, is that mana is a lot easier to stack than life is. Slight buff to vision runes. Do they just slightly buff everything across the boards? Across the board? Not entirely, but yes. So they didn't buff the T1s of the Glacial Storm and Desert, but it is not terrible. I'm assuming they still have their flat bonuses when socketed on the on weapons. I'm assuming that hasn't changed. I mean, you get more resistance, so that's good. Get more strength on the top end, not terrible. None of those are terrible, I guess, but you're still not likely to use them. Standard rune bonded modifier now grants 20 life and 20 mana when socketed in armor items. Okay. Lesser rune rebirth now grants 4% increased energy recharge, so nerfed that. It's probably nerf of rebirth across the board. Yeah, heavily. Heavy nerf there. No longer adds damage. That's rough. That's also rough. That's rough on all fronts. Now all idols can now be socketed into scepters. Curse duration. Egrin is curse duration. Ishta is now increased cost efficiency when socketed in a helmet. Small buff there. I don't know about that one. I don't know if that's going to be that effective on your companion is in your presence when socketed into a scepter. Grold is now socketed into boots and now grants 50% increased total power counted by war cries. Interesting. Now grants 15% increased damage for each different companion in your presence when socketed into a scepter. Yeah, but if you're doing a lot of companions, you yourself aren't really doing any damage, so that's kind of irrelevant. Okay. Flash charges per second. Maxarius is flash charges per second when in a scepter. Ralakesh is a defensive increase on a scepter. Sirius gives 8% move speed when socketed into a scepter, and only for your allies, not for you. Thrall Donna gives flat chaos damage to allies in your presence when in a scepter. Slight buff to Bear Idol in the helmet. Yeah, slight buff to... Oh, slight buff to the bonded modifier. It didn't even mention anything about scepters. It must have already been able to go into scepters or something. Flora Idol now grants allies in your presence 0.5% of your max life per second. Bonded modifier now grants 25% increased war cry recovery rates. Cat Idol now grants 25% increased accuracy rating when socketed in gloves. Slight buff. Bonded modifier now grants 30% increased charm charges gained when socketed. Fox Idol now has a limit of 1. It now grants other socketed idols in this item also grant their bonded modifiers when socketed in body armors. Previously 2% quality of all skills. The bonded modifier now grants 5% quality to 2 quality of all skills when socketed in body armors, previously +4 to all attributes. So you're only going to want to use that on like a 4 socket piece so you can get 15% increased quality? Like I don't know. Owl Idol now grants 12% increased cooldown recovery rate when socketed in foci, and allies in your presence have 10% increased cast speed when socketed in scepters. Bonded modifiers now grant 20% increased effective Archon buffs on you when socketed in foci. Ox Idol now grants 15% increased block chance when socketed in shields. Slight buff there. Allies in your presence have 12% to all elemental damage resistance when socketed in scepters. Previously 8. Small buff there. Bonded modifier had a slight buff. Slight buff on minion life. Slight buff on increased damage. Slight nerf on the bonded modifier. Rabbit Idol can now has a limit of 1. It grants 12% increased rarity of items found when socketed in body armors. So they gave it the effect of 1.3 of them, and you can only have 1 now. And 15% increased spirit when socketed in scepters. So slight buff there. Bonded modifier now grants 10% of increased quantity of gold dropped by slain enemies. Slight buff there. Overall a nerf, probably. But I mean, it is overall a nerf. You can only have one or the other. You can only have the increased spirit or the increased rarity. You can't have both, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Snake Idol now grants 8% increased curse magnitude and when socketed into gloves. Small buff. Small buff on the scepter modifier. Small buff on the bonded modifier. Stag Idol now has a limit of 1. Now grants projectiles have 15% chance to fork when socketed into helmets. Previously 50% increased critical thorns critical hit chance. So that's, I don't know how to feel about that. They just changed its use entirely. It's no longer usable for thorns. I don't know how I feel about that. Wolf Idol now grants 15% increased magnitude of bleeding you inflict. Slight buff. Allies in presence have 20% increased critical damage bonus. Small buff. Small buff to the bonded modifier. It now grants gain additional ailment threshold equal to 15% of maximum energy shield and gain additional stun threshold equal to 15% maximum energy shield. Interesting. Maximum rage on ruby jewels can now roll between 1 to 2 maximum rage. So slight buff there. Increased chaos damage on sapphire jewels can now roll between 7 to 13. Slight buff. Suffix modifiers granting a faster start of energy shield recharge can no longer roll. Increased energy shield recharge rate. Suffix modifiers can now roll on intelligence body armors. So energy shield recharge rate is exclusively on armor. Can no longer roll on body armors. I don't want to read all this shit. I'm getting tired of reading all this shit. Has a minimum level of 8, previously 1. The Journeyman's hybrid physical damage and accuracy modifier on weapons now has a minimum level of 14, previously 11. So they increased the minimum level of accuracy modifiers, basically. Gladiatorial has been named at Cassie. Oswald no longer undercuts you for the priceless idols in Act 3, on now offering you 3,000, 4,000, and 6,000 gold. I mean, that's better, but it's still not, like, fantastic. Actually, that is fantastic. Like, if you're short on gold for like, a speed run, you can grab those and potentially have some gold to roll with. Gold price of weapons for asynchronous trade have been increased by approximately 50%. That's rough. Desecrated map modifier of Union is no longer functional. This was a legacy modifier that only existed in the early access leagues. Slight buff to white mobs for Culling Strike. Essence monster packs are now affected by modifiers to pack size. As Mary spirits that are released from monsters now retain their power and empower other spirits released from the monster. The beams from Priest of the Sun will no longer ignore some walls. Good, 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 good. You will now refill some flask charges when Vipers... Okay, that is a massive W for the campaign. That shit is a pain in the ass. The Burning Dead in Ogum Village now deal a portion of their damage as fire damage. Okay. Improvise the visual and telegraphing of Lightning, Doriani's elite monster. Okay. You can no longer enter Plunder's Point until you have turned in all 4 map pieces. That should be a given. You can now receive a greater mind rune in the Halls of Dead when interacting with Navali. Okay. No longer need to visit the Halani Gates in order to access Trader's Passage if you have already freed Risu. Oh, that is a massive change. That saves like fucking 30 seconds. That saves like 30 seconds to a minute. I think that's everything. I think that's everything we're pretty well concerned about. Fixed a bug where Pounce was providing additional mark effect to Predator's mark or socketed marks. I don't know what that means. Did not interact correctly. Fixed a bug where minion instability did not bypass last gasp. Okay. Exploding minions and Infernal Legion are dead. Do not fucking try to do them on League Start. Don't even attempt. That seems like it could potentially be bad. That seems like it could be a nerf to Hollow Palm. Burning inscription. What level did you need to be for burning inscription? T4? Okay, so then I have an idea that I didn't think about previously. It is gonna... That's gonna kind of go... Never mind. How is... Guy that dies, is he just doing runs? No, he's looking at... Oh, he is doing runs. Do. Fixed a bug where skill set cost a percentage of maximum energy shield could not be used if you had no maximum energy shield. Excuse me. This isn't even a this isn't even like a PvP game, dog. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? There was a bug. Where is, Okay, so they didn't, address a bug that I mentioned, which sucks, but it is what it is. Alright, so we have now gone through pretty well all of the patch notes. At least all the relevant stuff. We can obviously double check stuff again later. But... So, Bone Storm is nerfed. None of the chaos damage skills got nerfed. So there's a chance that where is my... Actually, I didn't mean to close that. I usually keep that tab. That's fine. I can do that. So more than likely, I would say the Chaos Druid leveling is probably going to be the best option. Simply because you're not using Bone Storm deep into the game. Like, you get rid of Bone Storm at level 9. But we don't know for certain that Bone Storm's gonna be bad. Like, it could still be really fucking good. We are gonna start working on a spear build for Druid, though. Because nothing got changed on Twister. They did not nerf Twister in the least, which is surprising. Oh. Alright, so now that we finished looking through the patch notes, I am going to go make the chicken that I said I was going to make, and I will be back. Should take like 10-ish minutes. Oh. All right, guys. Well, I have to apologize about this. It looks like plans have changed. We will not be doing any runs tonight, so I will catch y'all on the next one. Thank you guys for coming in and checking it out. Peace.